have a really special program, special guest here tonight. They came in from Rogers, Arkansas, and this is Elizabeth Bryant and her daughter Sarah. And Elizabeth has been the executive director of Reality Check Incorporated since the beginning of 2003. And Reality Check is a community-based organization. They're a nonprofit organization. They reach about 5,000 students every year. And right now they're teaching skills that are necessary to empower individuals to make positive life choices. And they have a classroom, they call it their life project, right? Life skills classroom. Say it again. Life skills project. They have a classroom that they're in every day working with students. And then they also go into schools and work with students on science-based sexuality. It's amazing stuff. And they have partnered with over 15 school districts, including 40-plus different schools. They've provided a program in 5 states and over a dozen different countries. So they're here tonight to give you some tools, to give you some information that I think is going to blow your mind, but I also think it's going to just help you in dealing with your daughters and your girls that you're raising. One of Elizabeth's greatest accomplishments is her family. She's been married to her husband for 35 years. She has 4 children, 3 son-in-laws, and 15 grandchildren. So will you welcome them to the stage?
Well, I'm excited to be here tonight. I don't even know if I need a microphone because we teach in schools all the time, and we are loud. It's terrible. My husband, he's always telling me, I don't think you need a microphone, but I'll use one tonight, okay? Like Emily said, we are from Northwest Arkansas, and it is a pleasure to be able to be here with you tonight. We heard about Mutual Gold a couple years ago, and we are so impressed with what they are doing in this area, especially for young women. I love that focus of just helping our young women to grow to be very strong and powerful people. And so it's an honor to be able to be here and just share some information from our heart. We have been providing programs for the last 13 years, and you see a lot of changes. Oh my goodness, has it changed in 13 years? It's incredible. And so just in those changes, there have been so many things that we've learned that we've had to implement as well. And so it's just our heart tonight to come and share some of the things that we've seen. And so on how to protect our girls is so critical, to protect our girls. Tonight, this is my daughter. This is my oldest daughter, Sarah. And I was privileged about, 6 years ago? 7 years ago that she came to work for me. And so it's great to be able to send someone in a classroom and you know exactly what they're going to say because you know them by heart. And so when we decided to come tonight, I was like, man, who's coming with me? That's my sidekick right there. She's coming with me because I know her by heart. And I know that she's going to share some very powerful things with you as well. Even though she doesn't have girls that she's raising, you're going to get kind of a little view from her side of only raising boys. And so that'll be a good blend. What I'd like to do, first off, is I would like to have 2 volunteers. Come on up. Come on up. All right, I need 1 more. Oh, thank you, sir, for volunteering. You come on up here in the checkered shirt. Good job. This happens in the classroom, too. Whoever volunteers someone else is the automatic volunteeree. Come on, I don't even know if that's a word, but we'll make them up. You know what? You're going to start right down here. We've got a little competition. And this is for you. And this is, well, hang on a minute. Because I have to give you the rules, and then I'll give you the yardstick. The rules are, you're going to have a competition. You're going to have a competition where I want you to balance this for as long, see who can balance it the longest, but I want you to balance it vertical, like so. Okay? Now, you have to And let me know who drops it first. You may move around if you need to. Okay? All right. Ready, set, goat. Wait a minute. I didn't say go. I said goat. Always be listening. Always be listening. You know, I'd ask people from Arkansas. Goat. Okay, are you ready? This time we're really going. We really are. I won't tease you again. Ready? On your mark. Get set. Go. Oh, good job. Good job. Would you put that on sign for me? Awesome job. I thought I was going to catch it between the eyes. All right. Now, you may have a seat. Okay. Give him applause. Now, do you want to challenge him or shall I? All right. Because I'm up here and I'm challenged for space, I'm not going to move. You may move around as much as you want, but I'm going to stand still. Okay, you ready? Y'all tell us when to say go. Right. It's that. Go. How you doing? By the way, I didn't introduce myself. My name's Beth. What's your name? You may not. Because I have a little bit of fear, Jeff. But I do have a prize for you. You'll see me afterwards. Okay? Good job. Give him a hand. Yay. Now let me ask you a question. Why did Jeff not win? Because I got his way. But if he was taking personal ownership and personal responsibility, which is always important, why did I win that round? Why do you think? Practice? I do practice, but that's not why I won.
You had more focus and skill.
Focus,
More focus and skill.
more focus. Where was I focusing? There you go. That could be a little bit. Distracted a little bit. You know what? Those are all the things that we talk about with young people every day. But we talk about it with young people because it's the same thing we need to know. Life gets busy. There's a lot of people tugging for your time and needing you here and needing you there. There's work concerns, there's home concerns, there's church concerns, there's community concern, and then there's your kids. There's those precious baby girls. And sometimes, because they're there all the time, it's easy just to kind of, I'll catch that later. I'll get that later. And so tonight I want to talk to you about how do you really, especially in this new age of technology, protect and guard our girls. And one thing is really to have a clear focus. Who are you raising? Your daughters, your granddaughters, our girls. Who are you raising them to be? What's your goal? Because if you have a very clear and focused goal, I do practice this. I know, it sounds like I have no life. But there are days when it's just relaxing, just to practice, just to stand there and think of nothing, but focusing on the top. Sometimes, listen, we have to sit back, step back, and take time to just focus. Just be still and focus and say, what is it that I want my daughter, my granddaughter, my girls to know? Set that as your goal, as your priority. And then when things get busy, do you know why this falls so often? Because we only concentrate on right down here in the moment. And when you're looking down here at just the moment, we lose sight of this and it begins to fall. And sometimes it falls too far to adjust. But if you always keep your eye on what is it that I want for my daughter, for my granddaughter, for my girls, then you can make adjustments in the moment to get you to that goal. Because listen, life is short. This yardstick has 36 inches on it. If you take this and you think, okay, we're going to look about average lifespan is about 72 years, that means that every one of these inches can represent 2 years of life. This is a very short time. Listen, there is a critical time from about, we work with kids from about here to about there. That short window right there, from there to there. And that's all we have them before we turn them loose. You get your girls from about the start of this right here to about right here. And they're going to be gone to college. But what you do in this amount of time is going to set the course for how they live out the rest of this time. That's why it's so important to be intentional. To really set that goal early and say, okay, I've got a short time to get so solid, set in their heart what I want for them so that the rest of this time is lived out easy. We're going to look at how do you do that. And we're going to use the word tech, T-E-C-H, to help us, kind of give us a focus and give us a path as we progress through there. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is the most important thing that we can teach our girls? What do y'all think? Self-respect. Anybody else?
Taking responsibility for our actions.
Taking responsibility for our actions. Morals. Integrity. Do you know, I love that because we talk a lot about integrity. That's one of the things we go in schools and teach a lot about is integrity. I always ask young people, I say, what's integrity mean? What's the definition of that? And you know that they can tell you, what's the definition? Give me the standard definition. Integrity is? Doing what's right when nobody's looking. And that is the answer that we always hear. But you know what? Integrity is much more than that. Integrity is not only doing the right thing when nobody's watching, it's doing the right thing when everybody's watching, and sometimes that's even harder. Because we think we want to instill morals in our daughters, but you know what? We live in an amoral society. Whose morals? What morals? Because our daughters sit in class with people who, for them, this is moral. For someone else, this is moral. So it's about really looking at how do we not only teach integrity, but how do we help them understand and incorporate integrity? Because again, integrity, yes, it is doing what's right when nobody's watching, but it's doing what's right when everybody's watching and doing something else. It's about when you make a mistake, because we all are going to make mistakes. We all do. It's about going back and fixing it. Taking personal ownership and going back and fixing our mistakes. And it's about not intentionally trying to make someone else fail. Integrity is huge when you look at all of those elements. How do we incorporate that? Because it's important to teach. Can I tell you, we do have a project, what's called Project 479. It's a life skills project. Our offices, probably about 6 years ago, we were asked to relocate our offices inside of an alternative school. And then 4 years ago, we opened up a life skills room where we teach everything from sawing boards, pounding spoons, making stuff out of junk that other people throw away, sewing. We just got a serger. It's the bomb diggity. We serge stuff. It is so much fun. We've got girls learning to make things that they're going to sell. They're making cards right now. We have the young men come in. They're the ones that run the sewing machines because it's dangerous. there are sharp needles going very fast. And so we have our young guys that come in and they sew. And what I want for them and what I want for my 15 grandchildren, I've got 15 grandchildren. The oldest one is in his second year of college, and the youngest one is 5 months old. What I want for those 15 people that I love more than anything in this world is I want them to be powerful people. I don't want them to grow up powerless. Because a powerless person feels responsible for everybody else. A powerless person lets other people control them, or they feel responsible for the happiness of someone else. You can read it up there on the board. Somebody read it with me. Powerless people make others what? Responsible for their what? Or they make themselves responsible for other people's happiness. Powerless people will live in a state of what? We don't need that, do we? For our girls to be powerful, fear has got to go. And fear goes when you know that you cannot control others. When you understand that you are responsible to control what? Yourself. Powerful people will have peaceful confidence that will lead them to live and to love powerfully. So that is our goal, is to help people learn how to live and how to love powerfully by taking personal responsibility. We talk a lot about teaching, but it's really not about teaching, it's about training. And that's different. Training sometimes hurts, doesn't it? Sarah's husband, Lee, he runs competitively. In fact, he is what is he?
He's the USATF, which is the USA Track and Field national champion in the 800 meters and the 1500 meters. He went to Jacksonville, Florida over the summer, ran there, and was national champion, which, I mean, is a pretty big deal. I'm just saying. Wife brag, but whatever.
I watch him come in and go, yeah, I ran 14 miles this morning. I'm not running 14 miles added collectively in my lifetime. That's just I'm not doing that. But I admire him, his discipline and his training. And training sometimes hurts. Training takes a lot of personal discipline. There's an ancient proverb, actually, if you go in the Bible, it's in Proverbs. An ancient proverb that says, a refusal to correct is a refusal to love. Love your children by disciplining them. It's so important to discipline. Discipline is expected to produce a specific character or a pattern of behavior, especially training that produces moral or mental improvement. And you can read that. We used to, my girls did not run, they did ballet. And they had a ballet teacher who every time that she trained them, she would say, my darlings, discipline is a gift. And she said, if I get on to you, it's as if I've wrapped up a big present, put a bow on it, and handed you a gift. And I thought, that is the most loving visual of discipline that I can imagine. So every time you talk about training is discipline, and discipline is never, listen, it is never to be harsh or to put that person down. Discipline is always to be a gift to help them grow and to make them better. So it's important to train, and the reason it's important to train is because of the brain. We do a lot of brain research. That's one thing that we go in and talk to young people about, is how their brain works. It is amazing. Did you know that the brain doesn't fully connect in the prefrontal cortex until a person is about 25 years old? If you're a parent, raise your hand, because you already knew that, right? That's why sometimes they're 18 and 19, they're going away to college, and you go, I'm not sure that's a good idea. You know? So it's important to understand how the brain works. We have what's called the prefrontal cortex. It's this front part right here. This is the CEO, or the boss of your whole brain, your thinking. This helps you understand consequence for action, understanding the abstract. All of that function takes place right here in the prefrontal cortex. But that doesn't fully and completely connect until about 25 years old. In fact, that is the part of our brain that helps us with impulse control, planning, empathy, insight, forethought, organization, judgment, emotional control, and learning from our mistakes. Now, can you tell why we know that hadn't fully connected until about 25? Okay, those are things that teens have so much trouble with. Our daughters, as they're growing up, have so much trouble with that. That's why you're there. You know, how many of you, when you first saw your girls or your grandbabies, and they were in that hospital, what was the first thing that they put on besides a diaper? A hat. They put a little hat on them, don't they? Why do they put that hat on them?
Retain heat.
To retain heat. Because their body is immature in that area, and so they need that little cap on. They need an outside source to help regulate their body temperature. You are that hat for your girls until that CEO of the front part of that prefrontal cortex connects. They need that outside source to help them because that part of their brain hasn't fully matured. That's why it's important. Listen, habits, risk behaviors, kids need risk. It's so important to have risk. It's negative risk or unhealthy risk that's the problem. And the earlier you begin unhealthy habits, the more pathways that get cemented in basically that brain for those unhealthy habits. Okay, the greater destruction that causes. If you have a problem in this prefrontal cortex, then it would show up in a short attention span, disorganization, procrastination, low motivation, depression, impulsivity, distractibility, lack of empathy, lack of insight, and poor emotional control.
Self-destruction.
If it's not corrected. But can I tell you, we all have a little bit of that every once in a while. And think back to when you were a teenager or an early teen. Whew, thank the Lord that you had someone there that said, you know what, that's not a good idea. Probably need to slow down on that one. Not a good idea. In the brain, as a baby begins to grow, gray matter grows. And gray matter in the brain will increase and increase. Gray matter is your thinking area. It's the part where a whole bunch of thinking goes on. The problem is that white matter grows slower. The white matter is like the superhighway that connects this part to this part. So when you think, this looks great to jump off this stage, that'd be wild. I've got some white matter that's got a superhighway that goes, yeah, not a good idea. Don't jump off the stage. Number one, you don't bounce like you used to. Number two, it's not adult-like, so stay on the stage. Okay? There are pathways, gray matter. What's important to understand is that gray matter, the more gray matter, the harder it is for them to connect consequence for action and abstract thinking. The more gray matter, the harder it is to connect in that prefrontal cortex. Okay? Gray matter peaks at about 12.1 in boys and at about 11 years old in girls. They have more gray matter. That means they have less ability to make wise choices. And can I tell you, we see this all the time. It is about at that age of about 11, which is about 6th grade, that we see parents turning over more and more responsibility and more freedom to young people. At a point when they actually have less ability to handle that freedom than they did 2 years previous. How many of you all have a child in your home, whether it's a male or a female child, that was rocking along and you were like, they are so responsible. They are so great. They do their chores, they do their homework, they do this, and then all of a sudden you wake up and it's like, who is this kid and who shut off their brain? Anybody have that happen in your house?
Yes.
Did it happen around 11 or 12?
Yes.
That's that gray matter. The beauty is that that's the peak, and then it begins to shrink back, and more white matter begins to grow. But a lot of it grows because you begin to set boundaries, and you begin to help them learn to discipline themselves. That's at the time when we begin to give over more control and help them to become more personally responsible. And that's where that power, beginning to train them in power, begins. Okay? Teens operate largely from the amygdala. That's kind of the middle portion of the brain, while that prefrontal cortex is maturing. The amygdala is your fight or flight center. It's your most primal center. Okay? So rather than having a rational thought or responsive thought, sometimes they just react. Okay? And that's what makes it so hard. When you have a situation, that's why it's key and important that we become powerful adults who take personal responsibility for ourselves. We are not responsible for their happiness, nor are they responsible for our happiness. Where we can stand in power and say, you know what, Pumpkin, I love you. You are my baby. I know this is going to make you unhappy. But right now, Mom loves you enough to say, you can't do that. That's not a wise choice. And we have to be able to stand up and say that. And it's okay if they react in their amygdala. What causes the issues in the home is when they react in the amygdala and we react right back in the amygdala. Sometimes you've got to go, whew, get centered focus right back here in your CEO and say, you know what? Here's the facts. Not a good idea. You might have to say, Dad's been there. Trust me, not a good idea. You know, and be human and let them know that it's okay. Again, risk behavior is important. Unhealthy risk is the problem. Maturing bodies doesn't necessarily mean maturing brain. Okay? And that's where we get caught up a lot of times because they look like they're adults. But that brain is not. And so we can't treat them as an adult just because they look like a full-grown adult. You still have to remember that brain is maturing. They need you. You're that cap until their brain matures. You're that outside control that's helping them learn internal control. And you're helping them to mature their character. Super important. What doesn't work? We work with teens all the time. And I'm going to tell you, we hear some crazy stuff. There's some stuff that parents are doing that you just want to go, what? Come talk to me. I just want to find out why. What made you think that was a good idea? So just saying no without explaining why doesn't work. Has that worked for any of y'all here? Or does it just not work for me? That, because I said so, if you're in the moment of danger, use that, yes. Move because I said so, it's fine. But if you are not in that moment of critical danger, slow down. Here's why. Here's what we're going to do, and here's why we're going to do it. Okay? It's really about respect. You would do that with your friends. Hey, here's why we can't do this, and here's what we're not going to do, and here's why we can't do it. Help your kids understand, because you're helping them then connect the abstract. Why? Why can't I do this? So just saying no without explaining why, again, doesn't work. Don't put them on a guilt trip. Don't use fear tactics. You know, there's some things that you're going to have to tell them that's scary. We have to talk about diseases all the time, certain types of diseases. You can imagine what Emily said. We'd go in and talk a lot about growing up. And so we have to talk about diseases. And I'm going to tell you, it's scary. There's some scary stuff out there. When I was their age, we were worried about 2 major ones, and they could be cured with medication. Our generation now, we're looking at about 28 plus, and most of them do not have a medication that will clear them up. That's scary. But what I'm talking about here, don't use fear tactics. I'm not telling the truth sometimes. It's scary, and that's okay. But don't use fear as a way to control their behavior, okay? Don't rely on statistics. We don't remember statistics well, teens won't either. Don't argue or defend your position. When you argue and defend your position, you weaken your position. Just state it. Here's what it is, here's the facts, moving forward. Okay, this is what we're doing in this house. And don't judge. There's a distinct difference in standing firm in your position and judging somebody else's. Okay? And then remember, my favorite thing is mercy is new every morning. Doesn't matter what happened the day before, you get up the next morning, big smile on your face, man, I love you. I am so glad I am parenting you. I am so glad you are in this house. And mercy begins new every morning. What does work? And just be positive. Just be positive. Sometimes if you need to take a walk break, go walk and come back with a smile on your face. Breathe deep. Get in the prefrontal cortex. Get out of the amygdala and just walk in with a smile on your face and be positive. They're around negativity all day long. This morning was a rough morning at school. Crisis after crisis with young people. Had a baby girl in there. She's 17 years old, was curled up like a 2-year-old. And I went to talk to her. I kind of had to get a little stern with her, and I got in her face because what she was saying to herself was a lie. And I said, oh, baby girl, that is a lie. But just to have her reach up and almost crawl up my arms trying to hug me because she just needed somebody to be there. And can I tell you, she said, my mama is so busy. She's so busy. I can't talk to her about this. And that breaks my heart. Slow down. Boy, can I tell you, as a people, we got to slow down. Technology has allowed us to run so fast and so long every day that we're missing out on the best things. And so just to slow down, be positive. Give them a smile, slow down, be honest with them. That's one thing that kids see through in a heartbeat if you're not honest. Just be honest with them. And then be a role model. Model what you tell them to do. If you expect it out of them, expect it out of yourself first. So model, again, what you say. Now we're going to look at E. That took a long time just to get through T. Teaching turn. You ready?
I'm ready.
You go. I'm going to get a drink.
Okay. I'm going to move over near where you are because I can see this better.
All right. I better shut this off or I'll be commenting while you're...
Oh. You'll do fine, Mom. My name is Sarah. I am her daughter. I'm very proud to be. And so my mom is the coolest of the cool moms. And so that's, but you know, she also told me no many times. And hey, she's still the coolest of the cool. So don't be scared to tell them no. We're going to talk about how can we educate ourselves and how can we educate our girls or our kids. I am a mom of 3 sons. I have 3. My oldest is a sophomore in college. He's adopted. We love him very much. Well, we love all of them, of course. And we've got an 8th grader and a 7th grader. All boys. They're all in that, like, not connecting phase, you know? And so it's a joy and a delight. Every day is new. But as we begin to talk about, and I begin to talk to you guys about your girls and how to protect your girls in this culture and this society that is really uncharted by any other generation before us. And we're going to talk about why this is just totally new ground. We as parents are dealing with things that parents before us never even had to consider in their mind. And we're going to talk about that. It's not something that we should fear. It's something that we should educate ourselves about so that we are powerful and we are able to say no, and this is why. We need to identify, and listen, it's really important. You know, you may say, well, you raise sons, so I'm raising a daughter. What? They're all kids, for one. For two, it's really important to me. Girls and their future, that's so important to me, because one day my boys are going to have a girl standing beside them, and I want them to be powerful women standing beside an equally powerful man, that they don't control each other, they're whole and complete humans together. We need to identify what places our girls at risk, especially in this world of technology. Raise your hand if, and listen, I'm going to raise my hand too. Raise your hand if you have a smartphone of any kind, a smartphone of some kind. Okay, most people do. Raise your hand if you have a child who has a smartphone or who has access to yours. Raise your hand. Okay, most everybody, especially with daughters or children, your kids have access to it. And by the way, can I tell you, if you have not had a conversation, you may say, well, my daughter does not have a phone. She does not have access to those kinds of things. Her friends at school might, and probably do. And so even though your child might not have a cell phone, I have 2 middle schoolers, they don't have a cell phone. But I know that they have kids that sit beside them at school that do. Yeah, I could go on and on about that. What locations, situations, or relationships make my child feel valued less? Okay? What makes them feel like they don't have the value that we know that they have? Can I tell you, I've gone into schools and I've taught young people. This is my 8th year to be in a school teaching young people, and I cannot tell you how many young people have told me I did not know I had value. And listen, this is not one demographic or across the board. Because I think sometimes we forget to tell them. And we forget to explain it. Of course we know. Of course we think that our daughters have value. Of course we think our children have value. But let's always tell them. Every day tell them, you are valuable. I love you because you are you. Not because of anything that you do, any choice that you make. I just love you because you're mine and I love you. Make sure that you are helping your daughter set boundaries. Hello? It's all right. I'm distracted easily. What situations put your child in danger? I'm going to talk to you guys a lot about the fact that your child could be sitting in your living room with you. And you say, well, my child isn't in any danger. They're here with me every night. They don't go anywhere ever. But they could be in the living room with you and 1,000 miles away because their face is here. And can I tell you, for them, because of those connections are not there, it is very difficult. Listen, it's really difficult for us as parents to sometimes separate what's on the phone with reality. I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes we as adults get caught up in how many people liked this. I had a friend of mine, she was a grown woman. She said, you know what, Sarah? Embarrassingly, the other day, she said I posted a picture and I didn't get very many likes on it and I was embarrassed, so I deleted it. And listen, that was a grown woman. The reality is, it did not make her less of a person because not very many people liked it. But something in her, oh, I gotta delete that. Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. Oh my goodness, people don't. Because us as adults have a hard time separating reality from what we see on the phone. Our kids have a hard time with that too. Be very careful that you don't just assume, well, my child never goes anywhere. My child's in their room. By 9 o'clock at night, my child is in their room. No one's in there with them. Well, they might be. They might be. I'm going to show you in a little bit an example of that. But the reality is, listen, there are games on your phone. You may say, well, my child doesn't have social media. My child doesn't text anybody ever. My child only gets on my phone. But are they playing a game on your phone where they can talk to people? Because I've known situations where there is a child who is interacting with what they think is another child on a game. And it's not. You have to use caution. Don't just assume. Because listen, I've heard this a lot. Well, my child needs their privacy. I had my privacy. I wanted privacy as a teenager. Listen, I wanted privacy too. But can I tell you that one, I didn't get it. But not that aside. I wanted privacy, but can we please think back on what our privacy was? I mean, it was like a cord that you stretched as far as it could into the other room and prayed to God that your mother did not pick up the other line. Right? Because she could click on it any second. You'd be talking away, and all of a sudden you go, click. Hello, Mom? Mom, are you on the line? Hello, Mom? Sarah, time to get off. That was our privacy. So we can't use the excuse, well, they need their privacy. I had my privacy. Listen, two totally different ball games. We cannot play soccer and use baseball rules. And that's kind of the world that we're in. We're living in a soccer world, but we're still trying to play baseball rules. Totally different ball game. We think it's the same because there's a ball involved. No, it's totally different. Get your child's passwords. Listen, if they won't give them to you, ding, 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 red light. Red light. Listen, you may say, well, my child is young. My child is in elementary school. I don't need to know all this. Yes, you do, because it's better to start now than it is to try to rein them all back in later when it's kind of like out there, out of control. Get your child's passwords, all of them. All of them.
Can I tell you one thing that's really important? I don't know what it's like here in the Bartlesville area, but in the state of Arkansas, the Department of Ed has made it acceptable for schools to allow kids to use their technology throughout the day. So we have kids on their phones all day long, even down to elementary schools. If they bring a phone, they can listen to it. And so, again, while you may have a child that you say, well, my child's elementary, I'm not giving them a phone, they don't have access to that, they do have access to it if they go to a public school, whether it's in the library or whether it's in the computer labs at school. Our schools have totally unblocked the computers, and so you can go on to Facebook, you can get onto all the social media. Again, that's all the way down. So just because you say your child may not have something, that doesn't mean that they don't have access to it, again, while they're at school.
Certain classes in the 6th grade here in Bartlesville said, you can get this app to help you in the classroom.
Yeah, and a lot of the schools, because technology is such a big part of the educational system right now and having a basis in technology, a lot of the schools are very open about pushing the use of cell phones. because I think that it's helping grow the area of technology and grow our kids' understanding and capability in that area. Can I tell you, I'm real concerned about that actually having the opposite effect on our education. Just, again, because there's not boundaries being set. And that's where it's going to have to come back to the home. Because in the school, a lot of times they feel like they can't set the boundary. But you can, because you're the parent. And that's why we have got to start grassroots at home, teaching our kids, helping them to navigate through this area, this new area of technology, and being personally responsible.
We're going to move on to the next slide. Why parental controls? Parental controls are crucial. Especially, listen, not just with their physical selves, but parental controls are huge regarding technology. There are so many parental controls out there. Just do your research. The thing is, a year and a half ago, I had all this information on where to get parental controls, how to use the parental controls, what kinds of plans that they have, and your phone carrier has different parental control plans. However, that changes all the time. There are new apps, there's new ways around it all the time. Always be researching. Make it your part-time gig to go, hey, what's out there? What's going on? And always, listen, if your child has their own phone, always have access to it. Always. And listen, I told you that our son, he came into our family when he was 14. He did not get a cell phone until he was 17. When he got his cell phone, it was turned into us at night. He did not have access to it through the evening. It was turned into us, and we had full access to everything on the phone. Nothing was deleted. Of course, listen, before we knew, because, can I just say, how do I say this? Trust your children, yes, but let them earn it, okay? Trust them, absolutely. But holding them accountable is different than trusting them. Well, you don't trust me. Well, that's not necessarily the case. I trust you. I don't necessarily trust everyone who could contact you. So, always have access. Have a parental control. Listen, there are parental controls out there that will send you alerts if your child deletes text messages or receives picture text messages. That's important. And we're going to talk about why that's important later. But listen, even if you don't have those parental controls, always have access to your child's phone. If they say, no way, there needs to be a gentle conversation as to why. Because, again, my son, was he perfect? Absolutely not. Were we perfect parents? Absolutely not. But this was an easy transition. It was easy because we always said why. We always explained. And it was a process. It was a process of letting that go. He's a sophomore in college. Do I have parental controls on his phone now? No, I don't. But there was a building towards that. It was a slow process of letting that go little by little by little by little, where he had to learn. Listen, we have to have external before we can have internal. Okay? And so that's really, really important. Again, like Mom said, you're training the immature mind. Accountability is crucial. Accountability is important for everyone of all ages. I still have people holding me accountable in areas. And so you're never going to reach an age where you say, I don't have to be accountable to anyone. Well, yeah, you are. You're accountable to a boss. You're accountable to your family. You're accountable to the law. You're accountable to a lot of people. And so accountability is key. Hold them accountable. Ask questions. The reason why it's really important to monitor what your child receives. And I wish I had the statistic, and I don't. The statistic of children by the time they reach the age of 16 years old. The statistic on how many of them have received a text message that would be considered sexting is outrageous. I wish I had that specific number, and I'm not going to give you one for fear that I would not give you the correct one, but it's astronomical. It's important. It's important. We just looked up the law, so you'll have to forgive me, and you guys can read this. These are the laws in the state of Oklahoma. The state of Oklahoma has some great laws regarding sexting, but if you will look at the fact that sexting is a misdemeanor if the offender is under 18. Now, that's even if both parties are under 18. It's a misdemeanor. Even if both parties are under the age of 18, okay? In the state of Oklahoma, which I think that this is phenomenal. I really wish the state of Arkansas would grab hold of this. But parents and teenagers, both the offender and the offender's parents can be held responsible through legal and social consequences, okay? Now, one-time offense is between $500 and $1,000 fine, and it can order community service. With each additional offense, that goes up. Okay, with each additional offense. It can also be a crime under federal law. It's the 2003 ProTECHT Act. Parents who allow such behavior can be prosecuted. This is why it's really, really important that you are hands-on. Get involved. Make sure. Listen, you may say, well, my daughter would never. She might not. Are you sure? Are you sure?
We went into a school, it's been within the last 2 years. We were going in on Monday. On Friday, before we came into the schools to do program, there were 18 young people in that school that found out they were facing federal charges because of a picture that was sent from one young lady's phone. She was 15 years old. Took a picture of herself to send to her boyfriend because in the moment, her friends were going, yeah, just send him a picture. That's what everybody does. It's not a big deal. And so she said, you know what, I can't do that because, my parents check my phone and I have younger brothers and sisters that play on my phone. I can't do that. And they were like, no big deal. Just use Snapchat. Beauty of it is that pictures disappear. Nobody will ever know it was on your phone. She was in that moment, in that immaturity of mind, she didn't consider the consequences. And it took her 2 seconds to snap the picture, send it to boyfriend. Boyfriend had quick fingers. He screenshot that when it came through. Then he had a picture of her that was inappropriate. He sent it to his friends, who sent it to their friends, who sent it to their friends, who sent it to their girlfriends, and you know what happened after that? Boom! The whole school got it. And on Friday before we went in, we have 18 children. These are children facing federal charges because in the state of Arkansas, the law does not differentiate. If you create child porn, it doesn't matter the circumstance that it was created in. She was 15 years old. That was creation of child porn, distribution of child porn, possession of child porn, distribution, possession, distribution, possession, distribution. This is a serious thing. For your legislators to look at that and in May of 2014 say, you know what, we see a situation here that needs to be addressed. And they came up with this law of looking at it from the point of this, we're going to call this a misdemeanor, and then we're going to retrain you, re-educate you. But we're also going to re-educate your parents as well. The fine and the hours of community service go up if the parent was educated about this the first time and it happened a second time or a third time. So again, when your name is on that account and your children have that phone, you bear the responsibility because you are their trainer. You are their guide that's going to help them navigate this time.
This is two screenshots. For the protection of the people involved, everything that would identify these two young people have been marked out. But these are two young people that I, at one time, knew was in a ministry alongside these children and their parents. Okay, this was not two people who were unnecessarily uneducated morally. Okay, this was two screenshots from two 7th graders. Okay, two 7th graders. If you don't notice, it says that they talked all night to each other. That's 8 hours and 14 minutes. So between a male and a female, 8 hours and 14 minutes. That's all night long. This is a young lady whose parents thought that she went to bed at 9 o'clock and never went anywhere. There's no way she could get in trouble. If you notice, the screenshot that is on the, what would it be? It would be your right. The screenshot that is on your right is from the young lady. If you notice, who called who first? She did. She initiated contact at 12:30 a.m. She called again at 12:43. She called again at 1:22. And they finally made connection at 1:30 a.m. and continued to talk for 8 hours and 14 minutes. Listen, and I say this with as much gentleness and love as possible. Sometimes in the society that we're in, we like to label one gender the predator and one gender the victim. Okay? We just kind of like to label the two. That's why I asked, make sure. Who is your daughter? Are you sure? We have to make sure. Listen, this was a young lady whose parents never in a million years would have thought. And can I tell you something? You're not talking about good stuff at 1:30 a.m. Not for 8 hours. I mean, that's just not going to happen. You're not going to be, hey, how's the weather? No, probably not. All right? Listen, no good conversation happens after 11:30 anyway. I mean, in my opinion. Listen, I try to, if I have to have a deep conversation with my husband and it is like past 10:30, please. More than likely, we're going to have intense fellowship, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be an intense kind of communication there. Let's just wait till in the morning. It'll be all better then. And so, trying to make contact that late at night. That's why it's important. Listen, when you go to bed, when your daughter goes to bed, make sure that phone goes to bed too. In your room. In a basket. Or in a basket on top of the refrigerator. Because, listen, they don't need you in the middle of the night. Listen, if they need you in the middle of the night, they know where you are. I promise you they're not wandering around going, I wonder where my mom is. I have no idea. I have no idea where to find her in the middle of the night. They probably do. They probably know where your room is. It's fine. They don't need to contact anybody. They need to go to sleep. They don't need to be woke up by a dinging of 100 text messages or all the notifications on their social media account. They don't need to know that stuff. The world is not going to end in the 8 hours that they're sleeping, and they will get their phone back in the morning. Make sure. Because listen, FaceTime. You can say, well, my child never goes to any, like, they don't go to their boyfriend's house. They're always at home. But is their boyfriend in their room with them on FaceTime? Because remember, in their brain, it's the same. They have a hard time distinguishing what's reality and what's not. We just have to make sure. Sometimes it takes courage to teach your your young daughter's control. Now, please don't confuse what I'm saying. It doesn't mean you control them, though you are their parent. Okay? Do not be afraid to be their parent. That's your job. But it takes some courage to teach them control themselves. That's some courageous stuff right there. Because I can promise you, courageous parenting in this age regarding phones and social media, in this age, setting those controls is going to be courageous. In my life, the controls that I set for my children, my husband and I, the boundaries that we have for them regarding social media, regarding their phones. Listen, we've had to be courageous. We've had to go, okay, well, I understand that I had my son, okay, I'm just going to give you an example, and I know we have to hurry because we don't have very much time left, but I am going to give you an example. I had my son come home. He does not bring a cell phone to school because he does not have one. However, they had a assignment, and the assignment was, because he didn't have his phone, he had to bring it home. Praise Jesus, he had to bring it home. He said, Mom, I need to Google something for my class. He was sent home to Google image search, picture of girl lying in meadow. What? Picture of girl, listen, he had to try to find a picture that it was, I don't even know, I don't even care. I was like, are you joking? No, you can't Google image search anything, particularly girl or lying. That is not smart. But we had to have a sit-down conversation with teacher. Hey, just FYI, have you ever Google searched that? And what did you think came up? You're going to have to be proactive. That may mean that you have to have some conversations with some teachers. And can I tell you, that's okay. It really is okay. Every teacher that I've ever had to have a conversation with regarding this area, every time the teachers say, I am so thankful. I am so thankful you told me. I am so thankful that your son doesn't have a phone because I don't have to battle that with him. He actually pays attention in class because he's not staring at his phone every 5 minutes. I promise it's going to be okay. But having courage to be that parent, because listen, we are parenting in uncharted water. No generation before us has ever had to parent when technology is right at their fingertips, when all of this stuff is right in your home. You used to be able to close the door at home, and if you didn't turn off the TV, who knows what was happening in the world? And who cared? Now, we have so much information, always, constantly. Our brains don't slow down enough, not even ours. Can I tell you, there's some times that I realize that I have picked up my phone way too many times. And I think, really? Can I do one thing at a time? It's okay just to do one thing at a time. I don't have to empty the dishwasher and then check Facebook. And then load it and then check Instagram. I don't have to do that. I can put it away. It's all right. We have to have courage again to go against the tide. And it is going to go against the tide. It's not the norm. It is not the norm to set boundaries in this area. Have a commitment to communicate with your girls. Communication is so important. What we do not want you to get out of this is, you know what, we're done. Nobody's having anything. No one's having any phones. We're not, nothing. We're done. Everyone's done. See ya. We're moving to Colorado in the mountains, because that's what I said to my mother. It's like, I'm out of here. Earlier today. So, communicate with them. Talk to them. Listen, I've had to sit down with my son over and over. This is not a one-time thing. This is a communication all the time with them. And then have the courage to care. It's way easier to go, they don't bother me when they're on their phone. They don't really want want to talk to me and I'm really tired at the end of the day. So, listen, sometimes that's easier. Have the courage to care what's happening, what's going on. Get involved. And listen, when I stepped into this world of figuring out really what's going on with social media, I wanted to run away and scream because it's frightening. But have the courage to step in there anyway, just so that you know, that you're informed. We are fine. Boundaries, what and why. This is a visual picture of a lot of the apps about a year and a half ago that were really prevalent and incredibly dangerous for your children as far as parental controls. However, those have completely changed at this point. Very few of those are necessarily at their peak of use. I will say Snapchat still is. Snapchat is a little ghost. For the top little corner, that is Snapchat. Listen, I know a lot of people who use it. I'm going to tell you very directly as someone who has researched Snapchat extensively. It is the most unethical app and company I have ever heard of in my life, you guys. Snapchat, all you have to do is research it. Snapchat was created by two college guys who wanted it to be easier for girls to send them naked pictures. And they don't hide it. They don't hide it. Google it. Look it up. They don't hide that that's their purpose. It was created for unethical purposes. Snapchat keeps every picture that anybody takes. There's a little button that says, hey, if you're over the age of whatever, you need to have parent consent, whatever, no kid ever looks at that, clicks OK, downloads it on their phone. That's their little loophole, their little unethical loophole to create child pornography and not get charged for it. In their terms and conditions, they say that you cannot sue them for more than 99 cents. So when you agree, regardless of what happens, hey, we're not responsible. You can sue us for 99 cents. It is the most unethical company I have ever researched in my life. Listen, I have social media. I love social media. I love using it. But I refuse to have that just because of the research that I did. They sell them. They sell the pictures. They sell the pictures of your children. And they have every right to. Because you gave them permission. At least in their loophole world, you gave them permission to do that. It's absolutely unreal, and I could get real fired up about it.
One thing with Snapchat is they recently came out that they've done more control with Snapchat, so a lot of people were like, oh, great, okay, then that's good, because my child can have a circle of friends on Snapchat and not have other people, breaking in on their circle of friends. Not really true, because you can set it to where if you're in a room and you hold out your cell phone, then anybody else in that room that also has Snapchat automatically becomes your child's friend. So think about walking through the mall with your child if they have a phone that has Snapchat on it and has that feature open. Another thing that Snapchat did is it used to be just pictures that individuals took and they posted and sent back and forth to each other. Snapchat has now stepped in and they will provide movies, commercials, little clippets or pictures, and where your child can pull up and watch a movie or a 20-minute little funny thing that they think is funny, but you don't know what it is that they've watched because that disappears. You can't go back and look at it. You can't say, what did you see on your phone? What are you talking about? You saw what? It's gone. And there's no way to go back and trace and see what those little movies or those vignettes are that are being put on there. So again, There are so many apps out there. One interesting conversation, because we always have this with 6th graders. What kind of social media is the favorite social media of your age range? And they will tell you. And then you go research it. And it will be enlightening. And you'll feel like going, you're not going anywhere ever. You know? But again, we don't walk in fear. We walk in power. And we teach our children to walk in power because they learn how to set proper boundaries to keep themselves safe.
And do your research. Look at what apps are on your child's phone. Look at them carefully. Okay? There is an app, I don't know, it actually made media attention. It was on the news, which, thank goodness, the media is now getting on board and kind of bringing to light these different apps. There was an app that's called a calculator app, which to an unsuspecting person looks like a calculator. It's not. It's an app that you can take pictures and hide pictures and text messages and things like that. It hides pictures. Inside that app, it's heavily controlled. When you pull it pulls up and looks like a calculator. On that calculator, you type in a code. The code opens up the pictures that you have hidden in there. So again, that's just one. There are other apps. One is called Poof. That since has kind of dissipated, but others have taken its place. That you text on that app and everything disappears on that too and is untraceable. Again, do your research. Just look it up. Read terms and conditions. I know it's long. I know that you go, oh my gosh, I have a hard time reading terms and conditions. On the apps, especially the ones for your children, read them. GIF keyboards, any keyboard that your child has downloaded, read them. They can take any message that you send using that keyboard, and they can store it and use it. They are very open about the fact that they can use your credit card numbers, they can use children's names, birthdays, any information that you type using that keyboard, they can store it and they can use it however they want to. They can also hack your phone and all of your accounts through those keyboards. And you give the permission when you say, yes, I want to download it because it's in their terms and conditions. So please research. People are unethical. All right, Mama, it's you.
We are down to the H. Hope and hug. Can I tell you there are two things that the Word of God tells us. To love the Lord with all your heart, and then to love others. Love is the hope of the world. For me, it is so important to give our children a hope. And some days that just looks like, you know what? I know you didn't do so good today, but that's not your forever. And we're going to make it. You're going to learn a little bit better tomorrow. The mistake that you made today, you're not going to make that tomorrow. And I believe in you. And give them a hope for a brighter tomorrow. You need to speak what is. Speak the truth. Tell them how valuable they are. Again, that is one thing that I am shocked every time I go into a classroom to hear young people say, I didn't know I had value. How does that happen? Tell them every night. There is nobody on the face of the earth exactly like you. And I'm so glad that you live in my house. Even when you don't feel like it, tell them. It's so critical that they hear that.
And what is it that you want them to be? Who is it that you want them to be? Tell them that they are. Speak it until it is. I tell my boys every morning, and I make them say it back to me. I say, what are you? You are a mighty warrior, and you are a world changer. Like, you are going to change the world. And they'll say, yeah, Mama, I'm a mighty warrior, and I'm a world changer. Every morning, listen, do they act like that every morning? No, some mornings are rough. But I'm going to tell them, and I'm going to speak it over them till they are. What do you want your daughters to be? You are powerful. You are beautiful. You are valuable. You are amazing. Tell them what you want them to be, and I promise you, when they hear it over every day, they hear it every day, they will be it. They will be it, because they'll believe it. Because someone who is the most important to them, and listen, you may not think that they think you're the most important, you are. The most important person in their life told them they could, told them they are. Speak it and tell it is, even if they're not acting like it.
Again, I love that, because even down to our 18-month-old grandson, you say, "Who are you?" "Mighty warrior." You know, because he knows who he is, and he's going to grow up and he's going to walk that and be a mighty warrior for the Lord, because that's in his heart. The scripture says that our words have power. They can either be poison or fruit. And then it says, you choose. You get to choose every morning the words that you speak over our beautiful young women. And we're going to watch them develop into those things that you plant in their heart. And that's going to change a generation. Know what's around you. Again, it goes back to that. You have got to educate yourself. There is so much out there, and there's so much changing so fast. I did not know you could connect to the internet through and have conversations with people through your Xbox. I didn't know that. I do now. Educate. You've got to educate yourself. One of the worst things that we can do is when you get my age and above, go, you know what? I'm just not into all that technology. I don't want to know about it. I'm not going to learn about it. Learn about it. It's critical. You have to know about it. And then know who is in you. Can I tell you, I could not power without the power. I could not parent without the power of the Holy Spirit in me. Scripture says that the Holy Spirit will be our comfort, our guide, our helper, and He is the Spirit of truth. To know how to parent, if you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, it's very easy. Just ask Him. I need your wisdom. I need your power. And I need you to direct me. And then let Him direct you each day. And your journey will be sweet. And your fellowship with your kids will be sweet. You do not have to be their friend now. Be their parent now. And you will have the sweetest of friendships when they get older. And you're going to love them as people. So, never underestimate the power of a good hug. And not one of these.
No.
Not one of them Christian side hugs like that. Grab them, hug them up, and hold them for 20 seconds at least. Because do you know that the average hug is about 3 seconds? That's it. But we were created in an amazing way that inside our brain, there is a hormone called oxytocin. And it takes 20 seconds of holding somebody for that oxytocin to be released in our brain. And it helps to chemically bond us to that person we're hugging. It lowers the blood pressure. It memory airbrushes. And it bonds you chemically and emotionally. It increases your trust level. Can I tell you, kids are huggers extraordinaire. If they do not get hugs from you, they will be hugging on somebody, and that's the person that they're going to trust. You get your hug in first.
I mean, I grab up my grandkids, I hug them. I'm like, what? I mean, count it down. You ain't getting loose for 20 seconds, and that's a good long hug, okay? Never underestimate the power of a good hug and an I love you. Thank you so much. In your paperwork tonight, we kind of left you a little space if you wanted to take some notes. On the inside, there is just a simple, how do you set boundaries? And if you at the point where you're like, man, we've tried to set boundaries, it just always ends up into a fight or something like that. That is just something that we put in there. We use it in different places to help parents, especially those that are training middle school and above. How do you set those boundaries and have it be to where you're actually teaching that child to do that on their own, to where they'll grow into that release?
And this is what we shared with you. This is a technique we used with our oldest son. Again, it was this process, and it might have been his personality. I don't know, but I'm telling you, it made it so much easier. It didn't keep him from asking why. It didn't keep him from never being upset with us, but it certainly helped. And so if you guys have any questions for us regarding technology, setting boundaries, any of the things that we've talked about, you can come and see us after we're done, after everything's wrapped up. We will be more than happy to answer your questions for you, for sure.
I'm just going to read one last thing, and then I'm done. This is really a prayer I just would like to pray over you, okay? In Christ, Father, thank you that you made them the parent for their child. That's why you gave them that child, and it wasn't an accident. Parents, when you surrender your past mistakes, your experiences to the Lord, He took those things, and not only did He forgive them, He is using them to qualify you to be your child's parent. It is through Him that all those things work together to make you the best possible parent for that child. All things work together for good. Don't let the enemy lie to you and tell you that you aren't qualified, or that it's hypocrisy to train your child to do what you did not. Don't let that lie cause you to draw back or be afraid to love your child. Don't let that lie cause you to feel shame, cause you to hide away the very things that qualify you the most. And don't let that lie keep you from loving those children that God entrusted to you. May you be blessed, and may your parenting and grandparenting be sweet. In Jesus' name.